Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Talbot County Board of Education monthly regular board meeting. It is July 16th, 2025. We are here at TCEC, and as you can see, we are all present and ready to go. So, therefore, on July 16th, 2025, the regular board meeting of the Talbot County Public Schools will open at 5:30 p.m. for the purposes of declaring quorum, and then we'll move to closed session as permitted by the Maryland Open Meetings Act, Section 3-305B, Provisions 1, 7, and 8 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, and Section 3-103 of the General Provisions Articles of the Annotated Code of Maryland for the following reasons. Citation 3-305B, Provisions 1, regarding personnel reporting, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Citation 3-305B, Provisions 7 and 8, regarding legal matters. 7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on the following legal matters, and 8, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation, which includes the following: a social media lawsuit regarding litigation on behalf of school districts against Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, and YouTube, a lawsuit regarding an alleged injury to a student, an OCR case regarding special education services, a student case regarding the alleged failure of TCPS to provide a free, appropriate public education, a student case involving school/residential placement, and allegations regarding the Child Victims Act. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We will head into closed session and be back out here for open session at 7 p.m. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the regular board meeting of the Talbot County Board of Education. It would be great if you could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I
make a mo-
motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do I have a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes from June 11th, 2025?
I'll make a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes from June 11th, 2025. Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, we're going to move along to public comment. Has anybody signed up this evening? Anybody like to speak? You sure? Okay. Moving right along to board committee reports. Anybody have a committee report this month? Ms. Bridges does.
On June the 12th, the Maryland Association of Boards of Ed's Resolution Committee met. We developed a legislative platform for MABE for the year. I will not bore you with all 31 pages of whereas and be it further resolved, but these are the two things that caught my attention. One, we want MABE to vigorously defend full funding of the blueprint and also a special ed to full foundation funding. And I have copies of all the resolutions. If anyone wants to see them, respectfully submitted, Deborah Bridges.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Ms. Bridges? That's a big committee. Okay. Anybody else have committee reports for this month? All right, then moving right along into new business, we're going to start with policy 7.1, personnel policies and goals, with Dr. Horsey.
Good evening, President Jackson, the Board of Education, and Dr. Papakaye. I'm here to present the personnel policy as well as the AR. The personnel policy has been presented to the policy committee for review and feedback. What you have in front of you is an updated policy. The policy was last updated for personnel goals in 2002. The AR was last updated in 2010. One of the things that you'll notice is that we are making sure that some of the language is connected to our strategic plan in terms of what we are the conduct for our employees, in terms of the expectations. When you look in the AR, it gives a more detailed account of the code of conduct and expectations around the work environment, professionalism, the mission and vision for TCPS employees. We also did some dive into definition of terms defining employees, roles and responsibilities. In addition, talking about our recruitment and hiring process and retaining employees. In addition, on the AR, we talk about professional attire, punctuality, conduct in the workplace, and technology.
Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Horsey about policy 7.1 or AR? I do have a question if nobody else would like to go first. I haven't had a chance to review this, I'm sorry. Does this mention or make any mention of social media use or what is or is not appropriate for employees to put on social media?
It mentions some, and because let me back up. Talking about the use of technology as it relates to the Talbot County Public School issued devices, and so it does mention that in this AR. One of the another place that it will be mentioned is in our employee handbook that will be issued in August.
I ask because, as far as I know, there aren't clear guidelines or boundaries about acceptable social media use to this point. Are these being newly written?
So for our AR, one of the things that I mentioned, the devices should be issued. I'm a little tongue-tied at this this evening. So let me start over. Devices that are issued are Talbot County Public School devices. That includes your email, and just making sure that people understand that those devices are not to be used for cyberbullying, harassment, sexual content, or any other appropriate content. In our handbook, we'll get into more detail about what that means. I know our technology department does issue a document that talks about all of the proper use for when you're issued a device or using any technology, because those devices are the property of the school district.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Jackson, but I think Ms. Jackson was meaning to imply people going on social media and bashing the county if they work for the county. That type of thing, not necessarily on a school issued device, but even on a personal device. If they, typically if most people they're not allowed to go bash their employer.
Yes. And so my response to that is we would have to, again, investigate that situation, what was said, how that interpretation, so a number of different things. So the policy doesn't address that specifically, but if there's a disruption to the school day as a result of the post, that's when it would turn into more of a personnel matter.
And also, so 5.16, which is going to be coming up, will speak to social media. So we're going to make sure what that says, that still has to get updated. So when that comes up, we're going to look in the language to see what if anything says about that and where we can embed that.
You mean coming up for policy committee?
Correct.
And with the increased use of AI, we need to be cautious.
Yeah, and we have currently, of course, that'll continue to evolve, but guardrails for that, but we're still talking about the AI topic.
Yeah, I think I don't really know what I'm looking for as far as an answer, but I think that technology is changing and evolving, and people's use of technology is changing and evolving, and how people react to or relate to their environment and their employer is changing and evolving. But there are students, keeping our students safe comes first, and what an adult in their purview says about them or about their learning environment is important to me. And so I'm just curious what kind of stance we are taking on how adults can communicate about what's happening in their classrooms or in their buildings. I think we should probably try and get ahead of that. So it's important to know where your boundaries are, I think, so you don't necessarily cross them. And this is an area where I'd love to be proactive rather than reactive if possible. I'm not sure I'm stating clearly what I want because I don't know necessarily what I want, but I would just like to see a little bit more of something fleshed out around that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. Are you still up there?
No, thank you.
Yes. Next we have Dr. Horsey, I think you're still up. Does anybody have code of conduct questions?
And while we're waiting, I was just gonna backtrack a little bit. As you were mentioning technology use, I think that better fits in this policy here with code of conduct, rather than the policy, yeah. Exactly.
Did anybody else have questions about personnel or code of conduct? No? Okay. Moving along to policy 10.31, which is video recording with Ms. Spurrier.
Good evening, President Jackson, board members, Dr. Pepikai. Tonight I'm presenting to you for first reader the video recording policy. You'll note that it was last revised in 2010. This revision took place with collaboration from technology and school safety, Mr. Schaefer and Mr. Wilson, and then was also sent for review to Ms. Eisenberg. And so you see an updated policy and then the attached AR.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Spurrier at this time? I do. There is lots of discussion often in the community about what is or is not on video and what is or is not available to parents that has been videoed. Is that clearly defined? Again, I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to review all of these yet. Is that clearly defined in either, it looks like it would be in the AR, about who can access what video of whose child and when?
Yes, that is outlined in the AR, and a lot of it depends on whether it's considered a student record, whether disciplinary action has resulted from that. So that's all outlined. We tried to, as I said, the last iteration of this was 2010. So over the years, we've looked at where the issues have been, where the loopholes are, and we've tried to close all of those and been really specific in the AR.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Spurrier.
Thank you.
Next up, we have an update on our new retirement plan search with Mrs. Sarah Jones.
Good evening. I guess. Okay, so back in the spring, we engaged with Bolton Partners. You, at our last meeting for the marathon TCPS staff health clinic, you met some of the representatives from Bolton. That was Stuart Sutley, and Milton Nagel works with them as well. But we engaged Bolton to do what they've done for a number of neighboring school districts, and that is to examine the retirement plans that we offer to our staff. So all of our staff are eligible, that are full-time employees or work a certain number of hours, are eligible to participate in Maryland State Retirement, one of their pension systems. But in addition, they can voluntarily contribute money, sort of like a 401k plan in the private sector. We offer a 403b plan. And we don't match or anything, but they can defer some of their, we offer pre-tax and post-tax, where they can defer some of their salary into additional retirement saving plans. The issue is we've added to those plans over the years. I think we currently have 7 different providers of plans, and each plan has a plethora of offerings, and it's overwhelming. So when you come to the district, it's very, it's a decision that you think, gosh, I'm going to need a week to even think about this. And so we have decent, and I can't think off the top of my head what our enrollment is. We have decent engagement with our staff. It's, purely voluntary on their part, whether they choose to contribute or not. But what Bolton has seen in working with other districts is there are a few advantages to sort of consolidating into one primary provider. And that is, from my standpoint, it simplifies things, but most importantly, it it should overall reduce the fees because the one provider is going to have a bigger share, and so they're going to be more willing to work with our folks. And so the fees they charge for transactions and managing the money should be, they should offer them a better deal. Some of the funds that we currently offer, some of the options within those funds are proprietary funds. So I'll just make it up, like say Acme is one of our providers. They offer the Acme and 2020 annuity fund or so there are probably some better options out there, and we want to make sure we're getting the best of the best options available for our staff. And so we think that that would be an outcome of this consolidation. Again, we think we might have, it might just be a less overwhelming, and so we might have better staff participation. There's also going to be a marketing campaign around it, so I think it'll bring it to the forefront of everyone's minds. Hey, I haven't been doing that, or I have been doing that, but maybe I'll up my percentage or whatever. Some of the things we're seeing is some of these are older funds. The fees are not very transparent. They're kind of built in, and we don't like that. We want the fees to be very transparent so that all of our staff can understand exactly what their returns are and what the fees are. So those are some of the advantages to doing this consolidation. So what we will do is we will make a selection, and once that selection has been made, then staff will get information about it. They'll have plenty of time to make a decision about if they want to go into this new plan, what the best fund options in that plan are for them. They can elect to take, if they have current balances with a current provider, they can elect to roll those over into the new plan or leave them as they are. That's fine too, but they will not be able to continue to contribute to the old plan because we're trying to, put that wall up and go with some better options for them. So that's that. And then we, just to kind of let you know where we are with the process, back in May, the RFP, request for proposals, was released. I think around June 14th, the responses were received. By the end of this month, a team is going to sit down and go through Bolton's initial review of those proposals. In August, we will interview finalists, and we will select our choice. We will come to you. Not sure what that August 15th date, our board meeting is right after that. I'm not sure if we'll have that for you for the August meeting or for the September meeting, but we will bring it to you for your approval. And then based on whichever of those months the board approves it, we will start pulling together and providing information to staff and rolling out the plan. Sometime in October, we think we would go live. The people that are on the selection committee, we have two representatives from HR, Dr. Horsey and Supervisor Polyunikis, myself, my payroll specialist, Sharon Giljam, who deals with our retiree benefits, Mr. Andy Burke from the union, and Ms. Bridges from the board. So that's our process. Does anybody have any questions about what or why or how we're doing this?
I assume there won't be any fee from the old company transferring to the new.
That's a great question. I am so glad you asked that. Interestingly, there are at least one of our plans, if not two of our plans, charges a fee to our participants if they choose to roll over to a new plan. However, it's sickening. However, as part of this RFP, we put in their language that the new provider would have to pay that fee on behalf of the participant so that they were made whole, if that makes sense. So there would be ultimately no cost at all.
And assuming that maybe somebody does want to stay behind, I guess there'll still be an account manager that somebody will have access to.
They may get, I'm not sure how that's going to work. That's something I'll need to investigate. And that is part of the motivation, frankly, for making the switch. We have two providers that the majority of our staff are in one of their plans. They have pretty good customer service. The other five are pretty spotty. There's one guy who's notorious. you cannot get in touch with the gentleman. So we need that to change. We need to have a robust customer service interface so that if you need a loan, if you need a rollover, if you need a distribution, that's an easy process. I'll get back to you on that question because I haven't thought that through.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Jones. And thank you, Ms. Bridges, for being our representative on this committee. Okay, next up in unfinished business.
Yep, this is the strategic plan, which is the one consent agenda that we have.
My technology is always broken, I swear. I don't know, it's just me. It's not on my, okay. Next up, we have this strategic plan under consent agenda.
Yes, so you all probably can recite the strategic plan now because you've seen it in a short amount of time, numerous times. So this is to vote on the strategic plan so we can move forward with the implementation.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda item that is in front of us tonight, which is approving the strategic plan as we have seen as recently as Monday, but many times before. So it is the 4 Points Education Partners, Talbot County Public Schools Strategic Plan, last dated July 14th, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Next on the agenda is the TCPS Employee Health Center update with Mrs. Jones.
So I'm very happy to report that construction has started. They are expected to finish. They had told me last week when I did these slides by September 15th, they think they may be done just a little bit in advance of that. Marketing and information campaign for our staff to explain the center, how to get signed up, all those things will probably roll out in August. We haven't started working on that too much yet. The jobs search has restarted. They do have a candidate who's interested but has not gotten very far along in the process yet. That could be the determining factor as to when we open, is when we get the provider hired. And right now we're hoping for a mid-October opening date. So they will be there at opening day.
Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Jones about this at this time? It sounds like we'll hear more about this as it starts to
Yeah,
actually
we can do a
open.
monthly update and I'll get you.
That
keep
would
you
be
up to
great.
date.
I would love to hear about this monthly as we get really close to opening. I want to make sure we are getting in front of staff as much as possible. I hope that they know how very excited we are about this for all of them. And I hope that everybody has had an opportunity to talk to their friends in other counties who utilize their Marathon Health Centers. But yes, please come back and tell us more great news.
Good, and hopefully next month I'll have some pictures. There wasn't really much, to take pictures of, but maybe next month.
Oh, can we get scheduled for a board walkthrough when it is open?
Do you want it fully open or just about fully open or still in the construction phase? Yeah, I mean, when the provider's there and all of that. Yeah, absolutely.
That would be
Get
great.
that.
Thank
Yep.
you.
It should probably be before opening, so you don't have people who are seeking care in the building at the time of the board walkthrough.
Right. Yes, good point. And their expectation is crazy to me. They're like, yeah, we're going to be done. We're going to be done construction on the 15th, so we'll be ready to open on the 22nd. They bring the furniture, they bring their team. They've got, they're hooking up the IT stuff and all that, in a 1 week. They get it done. But again, we need to have a provider there. So I'm saying mid-October. That's my best guess.
As we solidify around who our provider is, I assume that the hours of operation will become more transparent.
Sure,
And I know
yeah.
we had talked as a board when we started planning this a long time ago that what we're really looking for is some flexibility in hours so that
Yes.
our employees can use it later in
Absolutely.
the evening or some earlier in the mornings, maybe some weekend times. So when this becomes a real thing, could you come back and tell us what the
Sure.
hours are?
That's been made very, very clear. We brought that up. We talked with them about that several times on calls Dr. Horsey and I have had with them. So, yep, they were very clear on that.
Is the provider being done by us or by Marathon or both?
By Marathon. So Marathon holds the insurance. Marathon it's going to be staffed with a PA, a physician's assistant, and then a med tech and someone at the front desk. And so I think it's actually 2 med techs. And so one will function as reception and all of that. And then there will be a lab. So one is obviously, a phlebotomist and all the good stuff. So, yeah. Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. You are up next for our board package. I don't know if you want to do it from there.
Well, I think Dr. Horsey has
Dr. Horsey is next with personnel report.
Good evening again. I would like to ask the board to approve the personnel report that was discussed in closed session.
I make a motion that we approve the personnel report as discussed in closed session.
Second?
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, now back to you, Mrs. Jones.
So this has stamped preliminary and tentative, not final on it, because these are our June financials. We're still going through the process of, every day a bill shows up, related to last year. So these numbers are a little bit fluid at this point. I had done a projection in May in preparation for the board to make a request to the county council for budget adjustments. We're within the same range, although some things have shifted. The biggest thing that has changed is just something I had not thought about. It had not come up before. Now it's on my radar. Our local unrestricted revenues are going to come in. You see, actually it says state unrestricted revenues are further under budget than I had originally told you. And the reason for that is with our community schools, we get revenue. And they almost, even though they're unrestricted, they function in the same way that a restricted grant is. You only get to recognize the revenue up to the extent you have expenses. And so it's one of those situations where our expenses were not all the way up to budget. We had savings there. And I had factored in the savings from the expenses, but I didn't think about the fact that we don't get to recognize the revenues. We have the revenue, it's sitting in our bank account, and it will sit as deferred, and there'll be funds that we can use next year in the community schools, but it can't be recognized as revenue this year. Does that make sense? It's similar to, I think last month I was explaining about how we had savings with non-public tuition, and then there's associated revenue reimbursement for that tuition. So you have the savings on the expense side, but then you have to reduce your revenue as well. So same thing. But overall, we currently are predicting maybe $115,000 of surplus for the year. So it's pretty tight. Last couple years, we've had more of a surplus than that. So we're, pretty tight, but we're in fine shape. You'll notice in the second column from the left, it reflects the amended budget amount. So in total, it's the same as the column on the far left, which was our original budget, but now it reflects the amendments that you approved back in May and the county council approved. So these, our auditors have already been out a few days last week. They'll be coming out in July, and we'll have a final audit report prepared by September 30th. So the auditors will come, and we will present final audited numbers in October. So we're in good shape, is my point. Good shape. Any questions?
I just want to say thank you so much. You are absolutely amazing to pull all this together and come out in the black. Thank you very much.
Well, I have great, great, great support, and not even within my department, but within this building. Everybody knows, they're very good about getting me the information we need and requesting bills and getting quotes and all the things that we need to make all that happen. So it's a lot of help from the administrative staff in this building. I'm thinking for just FYI for next month, I don't typically do a financial report in August for July for the first month of the year for a variety of reasons. I mean, nothing really has happened. I actually have recently found out that a lot of districts, larger districts, don't present financial reports at all in the summer, even including their June numbers, because they know their June numbers are going to change. So I thought next month what I would do is present a report on our investment income, because that was something we talked about with the investment policy, is reporting to you on a quarterly basis. So I'll do that next month, but that'll probably be the only thing that I'll do next month. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Finally, we have our superintendent's report, and she's got a lot to say tonight, so
I
I'm
was gonna
excited to
say,
hear
yeah.
from you, Dr. Pepkai.
So a little bit longer than normal, just because I've included the year in review for the year. And so just to refresh your memory, we established 3 priorities when I first came. There was Strive for 2025 strategic plan. We extracted from a retreat 3 priorities that we wanted to focus on. Math was one, in academics, our climate. So the state was doing a climate survey. We then did our own internal climate survey so we can get the data back sooner. And then also looking at our staffing, recruiting and retaining our staff. So what I'm presenting to you are year-end metrics for those 3 priorities. Now, moving forward, we'll have our indicators from the new strategic plan, but this is the priorities that we had. When you look at this, you're going to see green arrows meaning the percentages went up, red means they went down from year to year. So 23 to 24, comparing 24 to 25. What this assessment is DIBBLS, and it stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. Students take this 3 times a year. This is the last assessment that they took at the end of the year. There's 4 buckets that students can fall in: well below the benchmark, below, at benchmark, or above the benchmark. So you could see just comparison. Now, for the well below, you could see here, I do want less kids being in that bucket, right? So I do want that to go down. Above, I do want more students to be above the benchmark last year to this year. So these are the incoming first graders, incoming second graders, and incoming third graders. And so this is just one snapshot of an indicator for staff to look at students as far as their literacy skills and how they're doing for our early learners, incoming first, second, and third. Now, moving on, MAP testing, which is an additional test, and that's measures of academic progress. So what you see here might look a little bit confusing, but this is students that took this assessment in ELA and math grades 2nd through 8th. You could see that. Green arrow, again, are students that have improved. And if you look at the bottom, and sometimes it's hard for people to understand it, because when I was first given this assessment years ago, I had to really understand it. When you read that students are scoring at or above the 50th percentile, that doesn't mean 50%. It means that they are performing where they should be for students in that age. So we want students to be at or above the 50th percentile. Percentile is different than percentages. So what you're looking at are students in each of those subjects, in each of those grades, if they went up, and these are the same students that went up for a student cohort from grade to grade. You're going to see another slide that's going to show just incoming. So you can look at data 2 ways. You could look at one cohort of students and say, okay, this first grader is performing like this. How are they performing when they get to second? How are they performing when they get to third? We want to always see the arrows going up from cohort to cohort to cohort. But we also look at new students. So how did the first graders this year compare to the first graders last year? And so you can slice it and dice it each way, and that's the way that I like to look at it. Cohorts, but also incoming students every year. How are we doing? So you could see at the bottom, 54.5 of all students last year scored at or above the 50th percentile, with 51 scoring for first grade. So a little dip, you could see 2.7 decrease of all students. So that's the same students. They went down a little bit from that year to year. Now I'm going to show you, this is the student cohort view for the subgroups of students. So just like when we're looking at data, instead of all students, we want to break it down. So again, green is good because students have increased last year to this year for students meeting that 50th percentile mark in the different buckets. Hispanic, Black, student with disabilities, multilingual, and farms. But you could look, incoming 6 for ELA, again, an indicator to let us know to dig a little deep. Let's look into that to see students that went down in some of those areas and some of those subgroups. But for the most part, we're moving in the right direction of seeing the green arrows of students that are increasing their percentage of comparing to students all across the TAKE map and where they should be. This is tested in grade view. So this is, again, all students, math and ELA, looking at, I believe this is the apples group of students that are, how they performed last year to this year. And then the next one will show all the subgroups, again, tested in grade view. So 54.5 in kindergarten last year scored it, 68% scored it at this year. So in 14% increase, again, students last year taking it compared to students this year taking it.
Any indicators on that 5th grade ELA? It seems like a lot of downs.
Yeah, so that's the next step. So that's what we want to dig into to look at specifically, what it is, and again, the snapshot. So we will get also the state assessment in the fall. So what we'll do is map, compare. So it's really good to have this, and really want to attribute the teachers for giving this assessment, because it is a lot to administer that and get the results and then have discussion about it and move direction in their instruction afterward.
Little side note,
Yep.
their 5th grade are the kids that didn't get to finish kindergarten because of COVID.
Good point.
Yeah, and it looked like in the last slide, the 6th graders, they were dipping. So was that the math or the ELA? In the slide?
ELA 6th grade. ELA 6th grade, yep.
That seems to be traditionally a difficult
Jump,
yes,
same.
from 5th grade to 6th grade in the ELA. Is that accurate, or?
Yeah, and I don't know, Dr. Einer, if you want to weigh in. I mean, that's always something. And for me, I'm big on those transitions of students coming in 5th to 6th and 8th to 9th. So that's something that we've been talking about. What are we looking at with the transitions when you're moving into those different levels?
I don't know when it changed. I know 6th grade years ago used to be part of elementary school. Is that something?
We talked about that. That was, I think, my first year,
Is
yeah.
that something that we can
Yeah.
change as a county?
Well, we've had discussions on it. I mean, it's a lot that goes into that as far as size. Just we did have a discussion on that in the past.
To very briefly answer your question, it was talked about in the context of when we started planning the chapel expansion. It was requested that chapel could maybe be also a
That's what it was.
middle school, or we could move. And then the question was asked, well, why? At what point did 6th grade become middle school? Because in lots of places it's elementary school. And to the best of what we, maybe Dr. P can correct me, to the best of what we understood was that it just at some point was a decision made by some educational oversight body and said, this is what we're going to do. And as you know, it's not the same everywhere in the country. Some people have middle schools versus junior high. So it's, different things. To adjust in Talbot County would require such a massive lift from a budget perspective with moving building resources and teachers and giving the same access to programming. When you think about everything that's offered at the middle school, if you tried to pull that out and offer that, somewhere else, it's very, very complicated. And then you start talking about space issues. If you just pulled sixth grade out, and where would you put sixth grade at all of our, middle schools or elementary schools, which don't have room for, sixth grade. So it's one of those, like, if you did this, then this, then this, then this, then this. Is it technically possible? Probably. We could probably at some point make that decision to do it. Is it financially responsible? Is it the most prudent course forward? It kind of seemed like an obvious no, considering the state wouldn't help at all whatsoever. This would be a county lift. But it would be something that we could talk about should the board have an appetite for taking on a project of that magnitude. Did I cover that
Yep.
completely? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm really glad to see such improvement in the Latino and Black community. That's huge.
Yeah, I'm really proud. Like I said, my first glance, I just look at the green arrows. So moving on from the academics to our second area was our school climate. And so, again, comparing year to year, looking at school-based mental health providers, we've increased over the years from 9 back in 22-23 to 18 this current year. 24-25, and you could see the mental health agencies. The substance abuse referrals have gone down over the years, and then mental health referrals have gone, they were 312 and then they're 386. So you want to, you could kind of look at that both ways. Do we have more referrals going in? We have more agencies, so we have more help available out there. And then the pie here for the different areas of mental health there.
Of those crossovers,
Oh, so
family problems.
that's a good question, and I don't know, Ms. Sperry, would you know that, the crossover for that? Like same double, you're saying double, like double dip? Yeah.
They do, and I think the other piece to know is that in 24-25, we don't have the substance abuse preventionist anymore, and so those referrals are kind of encompassed into that mental health number. They're just, we can make mental health referrals for substance abuse.
Thank you. Our risk assessments, threat assessments, and bullying incidents, we are seeing those go down. With the new strategic plan, of course, we have a lot of different indicators that we'll continue to track. Even though it's rolling out now, we're still going to have longitudinal data that I'm interested in seeing over a longer period of time that we'll continue to look at on a quarterly basis.
In relation to that, that general topic, when are we implementing the panic buttons for the teachers? Is that going to start at the beginning of the school year? Is that
Yes.
later on in the school year?
Yes, it should. Well, right now they're in the process of the logistics of getting the building set up, wired. I'm trying to think what meeting was that. Oh, Monday at our leadership retreat, Mr. Schaefer stood up in front of all the leaders to explain what's going to take place, what's going to happen, what this is, and so the rollout we're starting now, and then it'll go. I would say September, depending on how fast we can get. I think he said, correct me, that the work will be taking place in the evenings when everybody's not there, so we can get that.
The brand name is Centegix of those, right?
Centegix, yes.
What are we referring to these as? Are we saying the Centegix cards, the panic buttons, the lanyard? Like,
I think it's
what
a
are we-
panic button, but I'm trying to remember when he stood up, but we'll have that laid out. Oh, it is?
It's
Okay.
not really a panic button, we're calling
Or a
it.
safety, I would say safety lanyard. Yeah, safety lanyard. Pan.
That's
Yeah.
kind of why I asked, because
Yeah.
again, the community is going to latch on to whatever we're calling these.
Yep.
And if we start saying they're panic buttons,
Yeah.
like they're my understanding was they're for that, but also for a lot more things, and also just calling for,
Notification
support.
system.
So
Yeah, and Ms. Brenda's just said school safety notification system.
we could just
Technical,
call it
but we'll make sure that we have everything, and even with our leaders, making sure that we communicate that strategically. Yes. Dr. Bostic is a psychiatrist who works with the Maryland State Department of Ed, I believe from Georgetown, Miss Spurrier, but that's who he is there, and he has the cases there, 23-24 compared to 24-25. And then the staff trainings. You could see some of the webinars and the self-care sessions have gone down from 23-24 to 24-25. And so just looking at the data, that'll be something we'll come around the table to talk about what we can do to make sure that we're offering information sessions for our community and our families. Wow, jeez. And our attendance rates, you could see the last couple of years, 91.8 in 22-23 to 92.45 24-25, and then for staff, 92, roughly.
Do we have numbers yet where we compare our attendance rates to the other counties in the state? Because I feel like that's got to be pretty high up there.
It is, and I know in some districts that this is really a major concern. I mean, statewide, but we'll make sure we'll add the comparison of the other counties.
What's the goal number?
That is a good question. I could find out what it is for like the state, what we're shooting for, but I could find that out. And again, like I mentioned, school climate, the state does their annual one, and we were getting it back late. We did an internal one, and I think, each year we want to look at what we're asking when we do send out our staff and student climate survey. So it's not set in stone. So we have talked about adding a couple of questions to this survey. Moving forward, but this is comparison last year to this year of percentage. And then looking at our new hires, 43 last year, coming up into this new year so far, 33. You could see it broken down by the different areas, recruitment events, what we've had. We had 12 retirees last year. We had 9 this year. We did our own career fair here and had 1 new hire, which is 1 more than we've had. I mean, we'll can keep at it and having our own in-house and keep modifying that as well. But the department did a really good job in laying out and having everything here for people that did come through. And you could see the current openings there. This is our class of 2025. I was looking at this, and if you look all the way at the bottom, what was really astounding was the scholarship amounts that were awarded there. You could see $17 million of scholarships awarded, and then even locally, $579,000. So just really impressive, the percents of who's going where, and all of the University College Technical School acceptances there. And then behind the scenes, oftentimes we look at the quantitative data, but there's also the qualitative and the planning and the programmatic things that happen. So I had each department kind of list notable things that they did and the lifts that they did this school year. Of course, on the communications, I know Ms. Gardner did most of the leading of the strategic planning process, working with the consultants. We have rolled out a brand new website, Apogee, and then running the whole Education Foundation, which awarded a lot of our teachers grant opportunities. In HR, we got the career ladder off the ground. We have a new records management system, and we successfully negotiated this year for 2 years, so that is something to be commended. Finances, that goes without saying. I mean, we see how much takes place as far as that, but what a lot of people don't realize are the audits that come with finances. And so 7 audits have been completed with no findings, as well as, and you just heard the report from Marathon. Moving on, IT, you could see they put new labs in, enhanced cameras, phone systems, operations. safely transporting our students. There's the negotiated and procured strategic school safety notification system. And then, of course, we know Chapel is getting renovated right now. Special education, we've partnered with the Maryland Center for Inclusive Ed. Special ed report card showed significant improvements, and we have had more special education professional development here for our teachers with inclusive practices. With our leadership, we met all of our requirements for the blueprint. I know Dr. Einhorn leads a lot of the committees, the community schoolwork, and each school has a school improvement plan and goals that they each are working on, which has professional development embedded for their schools. Teaching and learning, I wouldn't suggest this for districts to do it, but we did do it. We launched a new ELA and math curriculum simultaneously at the same time. So I thought, and kudos to the teachers because they really did a good job. We added a new Judy Center, increased the number of students earning industry recognized credentials, and successful middle school career counseling program. Also under teaching and learning, the state has recognized us for our new teacher mentoring program that we have. They said we could be a model for the state for what we do because our mentors don't teach and mentor. They strictly mentor and dedicate their time for mentoring our new teachers. So that has been noted. Our student services, increased mental health providers. They also go through audits. We rolled out the Yonder pouches, telehealth. We started the therapy dog program, which we are looking at for some of the modifications that we've talked about in the past. And then just under my office, we transferred over to Diligent from Granicus. I know other districts are pulling their hair out right about now because they were forced to, everybody now has to go through to Diligent. And so a lot of people are struggling with that. And so we are offering assistance to help other people make that transition. 52 policies and ARs have been processed. So thank you to the policy committee as we are continuing to go through all of those, our community listening sessions, all of the groups that I go out and listen to. We have our career pathways committee. We are in the process of trying to get a youth summit launched in the spring, which would be a big event for our youth here in the community. And then we now have our summer career enrichment program here at Easton High School. So we have been busy. So that is just the year in review. The data, which you will see more of, with the strategic plan, and quarterly, we'll be looking at, a lot of indicators. Any questions? That was a lot. So what's upcoming? We have calendars there to see what's upcoming. It'll be here before opening day. We'll be here next month, believe it or not, and we are gearing up for that. That is a big event. I did go to Washington to the Superintendent's Advocacy Conference, and that was a good learning experience for me. We went to on the Hill, and we met with representatives. We met with senators. It was actually their education policy advisors. And the biggest thing, I guess, I heard was just a lot of questions to us, what are you going to do with Medicaid? What are you going to do with SNAP benefits? What are you going to do? And we talked about special education. That was one of our topics because IDEA did turn 50 this year since it was legislated 50 years. And so we are talking about what do our special education practices look like now 50 years later after that. So that was a good conference. Last day of school, we didn't have this last month because our board meeting was before the last day of school. So just pictures from our last day of school. And believe it or not, I can't believe we're going to be starting again. So we'll have pictures of cranking it back up. Popsicles in the park. We had two events. One we had down in St. Michael's at Muskrat Park. And then the second one we had at Idlewild Park there in Easton. And so a great turnout. Students were there. They had chalk. They were drawing. Lots of free books were given out by the Talbot County Free Library, and want to thank their partnership for doing that, as well as the Judy Center came out and gave away things. This past Monday, we had our first leadership training at the Maritime Museum, and every day this week, our leaders are in professional development. We started off Monday, they were back down there today, and we are covering all things, ELA, math. That was a picture of, we had Lego pieces, and we had to come up with some creative statues or little, things to show transformation. So, and it was a little competitive there. But it's always good to be in the space. We have new leaders in new spaces, so we're really, we posed the question Monday, 4 years from now in 2029, when our strategic plan is complete and we're successful, what did we do this year to make sure it was successful? And so we put up, responses on charts, and we're just looking at that, as well as what support can we give schools for their success in their spaces. So it's always nice when we come together. And then finally, it's always nice to show the bloopers every week. And thank you to Ms. Gardner, Ms. Claggett, who religiously every week I do my weekly videos that go out. And of course, we do have bloopers because they're never perfect on the first go. So we always like to include bloopers.
Hello, TCPS families. This is our weekly update. I hope you're. All right, take 10. Teachers, principal. Okay. Take that over. Take that over. I'm gonna take that over again. Wait a minute. Oh, sorry. Test, 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 test. Gosh, I'm on a roll. TSP. Always did. Oh, I forgot my bubbles.
So yeah, it's always fun. So that concludes. So just in conclusion, I mean, this is the end of year 3, and we really have done a lot. I mean, coming on, the board made it very clear we wanted to raise the bar and really dig in, for our students, and not just academically, but I think all around. We want students to feel like they belong in each of our spaces. We want them to be successful. I think with our strategic plan, we now have a foundation that we'll be able to measure for the next 4 years. And so kudos to my team, the cabinet, everyone in the organization who is receptive, and we're very transparent. And we like to push, but we also support as well, and don't want to leave anybody out there on their own. So just looking forward to another year and excited about it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We are now at board member remarks. Let's start with Ms. Whelan Cherry tonight.
Thank you for that. And it was a great year, and it's always fun to see the bloopers. I hope my windows are up. Have a great summer.
Ms. Jurius.
Thank you so much for the progress reports we had tonight. That was wonderful to see the progress this year, seeing the improvements in student achievement and the test scores, some really wonderful achievements there. And that goes along with some of the things we heard Monday night about our AP scores and some of the progress there. So it's wonderful to see the progress and appreciate all the support also on the budget. When we look around, we feel really fortunate for the team that we have here and the great job everyone is doing. So thank you.
Ms. O'Connor.
Thank you. Thank you for the laugh, as always, Dr. P. And I just would love to continue to strive forward academic excellence for our kids in every way, shape, and form, and limit all these distractions. And I'm looking forward to coming back.
Ms. Bridges.
I'd just like to say thank you to each and every one of you. I know this has been a tough year. And to see the progress, it's like, yes. We are so blessed in this area to have a county council that supports us, to have a good working relationship, to have the sheriffs that support us. We have SROs in all of our schools. our kids are protected. And I just feel like when I've heard some of the other things in other counties, thank God we're Talbot County.
Ms. Strawberry?
Also thanking everyone who puts in the work to make sure that our students are achieving to the highest level that they possibly can. And also thank you for the review, the end of year review. You put in a lot of work, and you do the work, and you strive, and then at the end to be able to see the progress that you made and to be able to look back and reflect on everything that you've done. Hopefully everyone is patting themselves on the back, and also wishing everybody are having a great summer and enjoying it for as long as you can.
Ms. Dodson?
I would like to echo what all my fellow board members have said about the progress. And I would also like to give a shout out to Easton Middle School. They had their first sixth grade orientation last week. I heard a very good firsthand report on how well it went. And I also want to give kudos to my fellow board members. We don't always all have the same opinions on everything, but we get along amazingly well, and we have a great collaborative relationship. And that, as Ms. Bridges said, is not the case in every county. So I think that that's really important.
I'd like to say ditto to everything everybody else said. They made it really easy for me tonight. I would also like to really highlight the level of transparency that was evident tonight with you presenting our data. We have been asking for these kind of results for a long time, and the way that you showed up with the full transparent picture of what is happening in our schools, I think is really important for both us as a board, us as a working group here, and us as a community. There is work to be done still, but what you showed us is evidence of a lot of hard work that has gone into just pouring into our students and to our staff. And I think everybody who has had anything to do with what we saw displayed tonight should be very proud of themselves. Staff, students, everybody, every community member who has been involved in raising these kids up, which is what we're just constantly trying to do. Once again, incredibly proud of everybody in this room and not in this room. So everybody continue to have a fantastic summer. Ignore the fact that we are talking about the start of school. That's not your problem yet. We will get there when we get there. And I will see you all back next month when we can actually talk about that kind of stuff. That's fine. We will be going back into closed session to finish some business that we were working on before. So just FYI, everybody. And would somebody like to make a motion to close open session?
I make a motion that we close open session.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.